Welcome to Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio with your host, K. William Spencer, and friends. This program is here to help all of us understand our journey in and through life by means of straightforward conversations, discussions, guest interviews, and listener emails. For more information, visit our site at YTYRradio.tk. Now, here's your host. Hello and welcome to Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. This is K. William Spencer, as always, your host. Today my guest is a very happy, very gregarious, very intelligent woman by the name of Mona Lisa Wellington. She is a social worker. She's an author of a book called Happily Never After. She's a business owner, she's a life coach, she's a public speaker, and I think the list actually does go on and on, but I just figured I'd bring out the high points here. Mona Lisa is a very wonderful person. I'm quite sure you're going to hear us laughing and joking around a lot, so this is probably going to be more like a conversation between her and I than it is just an interview. And at the end of the show, if I remember, I'll actually tell you something that we are going to do together in the future, starting next month. Anyhow, actually, what am I saying next month? Okay, this is pre-recorded in July, so it's going to air in August, and well, never mind, we'll get to that point. Anyway, Mona Lisa, are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you?
I'm here, thank you very much, and I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing excellent.
Wonderful. Let's see. You do a lot here. I know I left out some things, but I guess we hit the high points. Social worker, an author. Actually, you told me you have 2 jobs. You told me a little bit about one of them while we were off air. Business owner. She's a life coach. She's a public speaker. So where do you want to start with this?
Let's start with the book, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
The author. I'm the author. So my book, Happily Never After, is basically one that I wrote initially as a way for me to put some closure to something that happened in my life a couple of years ago. Basically, I had been with my ex-boyfriend for 7 years. For the last 2 of those years, we were engaged. And about, I guess, maybe 2 or 3 days before the wedding, he called the wedding off, and he did it over the phone. He basically just told me that he could no longer live a lie. He felt like this wasn't the best option for him at this time, and then he hung up the phone. That was it. that was it. Can't live a lie. This is not working. This is not an option, a good option for me. That's it. Click.
Not even a 5-minute conversation.
Not even a 5-minute conversation. And what was so disheartening about this whole thing was actually, there's a couple of things that was disheartening about this. Is one, those same last 2 years of my life of being with him, he had developed end-stage renal failure. So he was doing dialysis 3 times a week. And anyone that knows anything about dialysis, they know it's very hard for the person that's being dialyzed, but it's also difficult for the person that loves you, that feels like they can't do anything for you other than to pray for you and be there for you. So for those last 2 years, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm sitting at his side at dialysis. Every infection in his catheter or fistula, I'm right there at the foot of his bed at the hospital praying. And that was so hurtful to me, because it's kind of like you used me so that you could, initially get through the shock of being diagnosed with kidney failure. So basically, yeah, he wasted a couple of years of my life, my good young life, as I call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, actually, do you consider yourself, let me play the devil's advocate here. Do you actually consider the fact that, okay, he is a human being, and you did care about him, so actually would you consider that to be wasting your time or wasting parts of your life? I know it's something that you could have been doing differently, more advantageous to yourself, but, it's life, as much as we would like it to be about us, a lot more tends to be, it has its own balance. So do you feel that maybe it wasn't quite a waste?
I I mean,
Just your opinion.
I can't say with anything in my life that I've done that it's been, it's been a waste, just because you learn through every experience that you go through. However, if I had to do it again, and knew what the outcome was going to be, would I have been there 100% for him the way that I was? No, I would not have. Just because it was so taxing on me emotionally. And let me just tell you this. I'm one of those people where when I love someone, I give it all. I give that person all that I have. So I feel like I gave him so much of myself during those 7 years that I lost a lot of who I was as a person, because it all became about him going to dialysis. He needs to eat right. I need to make sure he's not drinking too much fluid. It was just so focused on him, I completely just lost who I was as a person. So yeah, I have mixed feelings about it. I've learned so much. I've been able to help other people with my story, but yeah, I wish it kind of would have played out a little bit differently. Like if he would have just been honest the whole time and say, hey, I really don't think I can marry you. I don't think, you're the best mate for me. Can we be friends? Will you help me through this challenge? I would have been able to swallow that pill a little bit easier.
Yeah, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm thinking about an old song, and I don't remember who it was, who actually did the song. It's probably Lou Rawls. If I coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
But unfortunately, we can't go back in time. But then again, it's probably a good thing that we can't go back in time, because we have spent more time in the past than we would on our future trying to correct something.
Exactly. And let me just say this. Got to mention this. The week before we were to get married, I closed on the house that I'm actually living in now, which is a pretty large size house for one person. So I remember just telling him, okay, are you sure that we're getting married? Are you positive this is what you want to do? Because I don't want to close on this house and I wound up being stuck in this house. Because at the time I was living in this really cute little townhome and it was just right for me, one person. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, no, I love you. There's no way I will be there at the altar. Even if I'm sick, I'll make them roll me down the altar in the stretcher, straight from out the hospital. I was like, okay, great. Because his name wasn't on house because he was having so many financial difficulties because of the health challenge. So he waited until the day after I closed on the house to call me. So it was one of those things where you could have prevented some of this. You know what I mean? I didn't have to go through the embarrassment of the wedding being called off, and then the financial part of the wedding being called off, and then the financial part of being in this house. Now, back then, I didn't see it as a blessing. Now I do. I love my house. It's not just a house for me. I've made it my home. I no longer affiliate my house with the loss of that relationship. So that's the positive side of it.
Mm-hmm. That's a wonderful thing that you can actually turn that around and see it for what it is. Because, well, well, she's a social. Mona Lisa is a social worker, so she understands, I would assume, that it's a wonderful thing to be able to take yourself out of beating yourself up for something that you were in, and I won't say how, because that's an individual thing, and just making it into something that's, well, I wasn't planning on this, but
right,
turned out to be pretty good. Cool. So, yeah.
Definitely. That situation it literally propelled me into my destiny at the time, and I didn't see that. And I guess that does answer your question. I am very thankful to have been in that situation and to not have married him, because I probably would have been miserable. But also, that situation was the beginning of me. Of course, I had to grieve, and I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it was just so beautiful, like I stood up at the altar, quote unquote, but it was the thing that caused me to see I had some work that I needed to do on myself. I needed to learn how to forgive myself. I needed to learn how to love myself. I needed to learn how to forgive him. So that actually began my work on myself. So, yeah, I guess it was a positive thing after all.
Yeah. And maybe he was sincere about it. I'm just continuing with the devil's advocate side here. Maybe he was sincere about it and did want to marry you, but maybe it's just somewhere down the line. I don't know who the guy is. I wouldn't know him if he walked up to my front door and knocked on it right now, but maybe he just said, yeah, I wanted to be there for you. I wanted to share life with you, but in reality, I just couldn't see anybody that I love so much taking care of me the way that I am for the rest of my life. Could be. I don't know. But anyhow, let's move on. Let's see. This is a perfect roll into life coaching. Tell us about your life coaching.
It has been such a fantastic experience for me. Just being able to help other people that are going through some of the things that I've already been through. Let me just say that at one point, my heaviest weight was actually 423 pounds. And
how tall are you?
And I'm very short. I'm like, in my mind's eye, I'm 6'9", and I could be like playing with Shaquille and them, but in reality, I'm like 5'1".
Hey.
Yeah. But I held my weight well. So when you saw me, you didn't know I weighed 400 pounds, but you knew I was overweight. You know? So for me, the life coaching, helping people to deal with their self-image and dealing with emotional trauma from their childhood. Because for me as a life coach, I also bring in the counseling aspect because that's what I do as a profession. But I've helped so many people with their weight loss plan, with their trying to improve their self-image, with them learning how to love themselves, with them embracing where they are right now in their life and just trying to move forward. It has been such an amazing journey just because a lot of people that I work with, they're like, Mona, I can't lose this weight. I can't lose this weight. And I tell everybody, it is one of the worst. I'm a foodie. I have a food addiction. Every time I get stressed out, I want to eat. When I'm happy, I want to eat. I just want to eat all the time. So I tell them, and I'm very honest with them, so they're able to see me go through my journey while they're going through theirs. Because even though I've lost 200 and something pounds, every day I still have to struggle when I pass by McDonald's or Burger King or, you know, any Mexican restaurant. I still struggle. So I'm also living it and showing it. So I think that's why my life coaching has been so effective, because I'm not just, you know, preaching, oh, you need to do this, this, and this. I'm actually showing them this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And then on the other end, I have a lot of women that I meet with who are over the age of 30, such as myself, who've never been married and don't have any kids, and they're constantly beating themselves up. It's affecting their self-esteem, their appearance. It's just the whole gamut. So I'm able to show them also how I'm dealing with it. You know, we don't have to say that in order for you to have self-worth, you got to have a husband and you have to have kids. No, not the case.
Let me ask you a question, because coming from a male point of view, mine and other guys, I know we have this understanding, most of us anyway, have an understanding that women at a certain age, they want to be married and have children. Now, that's just a general statement, because I know quite a few women that go, that's okay, not interested.
I'll pass, exactly.
Exactly. But tell me, can you explain that part of, and I don't mean the conformist side, because I know there's a lot of women out there that they're thinking that, well, everybody's thinking that I should, and maybe they're right, and no, I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. What is it from a woman's, as an individual point of view, that says, I need to be married, or I want to be married, and I want to have kids?
Okay, from my point of view as Mona, I definitely want to get married and I want to have kids. But let me just tell you this. I believe that everything is within good timing. Yeah, I've been wanting to have kids and be married since I was 20-something years old. But would I have been a good wife during that particular point in my life, or a good mother? No, not so much. I feel like I'm just now getting to the point now where I can have a husband and treat him with respect. And if he leaves the toilet seat up, I won't be running around behind him in the house trying to choke him out. I feel like I've just gotten to that point where I'm really ready to share my life with someone else, and even to have kids and, love them and appreciate them for their own little personal identities. They can't be a copycat of me. They're going to make mistakes and have to let them and all of that. But I think we talked about this earlier, off air. Really, in all honesty, if you really just wanted to be married, you really could. There's so many online websites. You could probably go online and get you a husband from another country that needs a green card. I'm not saying to do that. I mean, there's just so many options out there. If you really wanted a husband, if you really want to have kids, you can adopt. You can go get one of your friends, ask him for some sperm, just go to a club, sleep with somebody. There's so many options out there for you. But me personally, I choose to just wait until it's the right time. And we live in a different society now, a different time, where you have people like Halle Berry, that's 46, 47 years old, that's pregnant, and she seems to be doing great. So I think as long as you take care of your body, I think you got a couple of more good years on you, contrary to what everybody else might be saying. You have to do it when it's right for you, not because society tells you it's right or it's wrong.
Very true. Very true. I remember when I was 18, some of my cousins used to say, "When are you going to get married?" I'm 18.
And I wait, yeah.
Yeah, I got married when I was 26. And they said, "We thought you were never going to get married. We thought you might have been gay." I went, "What? Just because I didn't get married? Come on, you didn't see all the girls I was dating?"
Exactly.
Jeez. So, anyway. Yeah, it's one of those... that's why I said I didn't want to get into the point of the conformity thing, because, everybody's got a thing about when you're going to get married and how come you're not married now or whatever. And it's... No, it's an individual thing. We can talk about people in generalities, but when it comes down to it, everyone is an individual, whether or not they want to fit into the society that they grew up in or the community they grew up in and abide by their rules. So, yeah. So, I know you didn't want to talk about this, but, okay, we're going to go there. You have a business also.
Yes,
What's
I do.
the business?
I have a counseling practice called the Wellington Center, and what it is I am one of those people that think outside the box. We have a lot of people who don't necessarily have transportation to go to some place for counseling, to an office. So my business right now is home-based, where I go to people's homes and I provide counseling. And I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to be able to reach people who just can't come to me. I want to go to them. And not only that, you can learn a lot about a person by the environment that they're in, by just looking at their house and, just checking it all out and seeing who they live with. And you just get a different vibe and a different feeling. And it kind of helps you to tailor what would be the best type of counseling for that person. So it's basically a home. It's out of my home, but I go out and I provide counseling at each client's house.
Ooh, very interesting. Never heard that one before. But you're saying, well, no, I won't get into that one right now. But yeah. No, it was nothing bad. It's just
it doesn't matter. It's okay.
No, it's okay. There's one thing I wanted to ask you before I forget it, and it turns out to be way too out of place. You got this book, Happily Never After. Where can a person buy this book?
The book is everywhere now. It's at Amazon. It's on Amazon Kindle, Barnes & Nobles, Baker & Taylor, Veteran Books, iTunes, Books on Board. It's everywhere now. You can just Google Happily Never After by Mona, and it will come up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's everywhere.
There you go. No, go ahead.
It's everywhere.
Okay. Do you have a website that it's kind of like a one-stop for everything that you're involved in right now, or at least for the book?
I do. You can go to www.happilyneverafter.info. Not .com, not .org, .info. That's www.happilyneverafter.info.
There you go. So, now we got that out of the way. Let's see. Tell us about your public speaking.
it actually turned. If in the beginning it was a joke, like my friends just kind of threw me out at this. And she had a business meeting at her job, and she's like, "Mona, come on up here and say something." I'm like, "No, no, no." So fearful of getting up in front of a group of people. So that actually, I thought I did a horrible job, but it actually turned out to be a good job. People were saying, "Oh, you did such a great job, and you have a business card. I would like you to come out and talk about different topics." And from there it went. But initially it turned out to be like one of those things where my friend was kind of joking around. "I'm going to get up here and do this presentation, and I'm going to just bring you up." And I thought she was playing, but she was not. It was a good, the only reason why I didn't just beat her up after this was because, I looked presentable on this particular day. But, otherwise it would have been me and her. But yeah, it turned out to be a really good experience, and it kind of propelled me into doing more public speaking at different functions about different topics.
So tell us about the speech. What did you talk about?
Oh, I
like that.
About songs and how I related to different things in the world, and I was really reaching. I didn't have anything prepared, so I just on the spot. And the born comedian that I am, I'm just like cracking jokes. I'm talking about people in the audience and putting the mic up in their face. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself. Okay, this is how this relates to what I was talking about in the beginning. Wait a minute, what was I talking about in the beginning? So I was all over the place, but everybody said it came together for them. But me, I feel like I was just jumping all over the place because I was so nervous and so unprepared, which doesn't necessarily go hand in hand as a great, combination. So yeah, it was funny. I started singing and dancing. It was so funny.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of when we met and we got on here. And well, if you haven't figured it out, people, Mona and I get along very well. I know she's being a little bit more reserved than she was when she was off air, because we are cracking jokes. I'm sitting up here going, okay, because I figure around the time that she was born, the song had to be popular. Mona Lisa, Mona Lisa. Anyway, yeah, so we're doing all this kind of stuff, and she and I just have a great time just laughing and talking and back and forth. But yeah, I can understand where you're coming from in that, because, well, I used to be a martial arts instructor back in Chicago, and the guy that I used to be at his school most of the time, he used to put me up front, and as soon as he would do this on occasion, wasn't something he did all the time, he only did it a few times anyway. He would come up with these belt rankings, if you know about martial arts. You go from, say, a white sash to, well, he was teaching Kung Fu, so you go from white sash to a yellow sash to whatever color goes after that, and depending on what art you're studying. And he would always go, "Why don't you get up there and do a demonstration?" I said, "You give me 5 minutes to come up with a demonstration?"
Exactly.
And, yeah, I end up doing somewhat the same, but not quite the same as you, because it's demonstrating something, so even the person I pulled to do the demonstration didn't even know what the heck I was going to do. And it wasn't anything that would really hurt them, but let's put it this way. I'm 6'2", and for me to do my demonstrations, I always look for someone who is either and or taller and heavier than me. And at that point I was like 250 pounds, but it was mostly muscle. And all I was doing was just showing how energy can move things very peacefully, or at least without a lot of movement. And one guy told me, he says, "Sensei, I know that you cannot move me with one finger." And I did it every time. He says, it freaked me out. But that's another subject for another time. We can talk about that another time. Anyhow, let's see. We got another 6 minutes before we go into break here. So, business. One thing we didn't cover. You're a business owner. Well, you got to the business owner. Okay, you're also managing something else. I'm sorry. What are you managing?
Right now, a friend of mine has several houses that he owns, and so I'm helping him manage those. And it's so funny to see us together and in action, because when we're going to select tenants, he's more of, I want my money on the 1st. If you give my money on the 7th, you could be waiting to get evicted on the 8th. And, he's real fact about, like, I want my money. And I'm like, well, we don't have to evict them on the 8th. Can we give them a little bit more time? Because, these are hard. I always say these are hard economic times. And he's like, well, too bad. They better give me my money. And so even as we're screening tenants, when I go to pull the background check, he'll look at the background check. Oh, if you're delinquent you've been delinquent on your hospital bill, you can't pay the hospital, and that's where you go if you're sick. So I know you're not gonna pay your rent because you don't care if you have a place to live. I mean, his whole rationale is so different than mine. If someone has a criminal background, I try to give them a chance unless it's, for something that I think is going to be detrimental to that particular community or something. But with him, no, he's been in prison for this. I can't do this. I can't do that. And so it's just so funny to see us, because he's arguing for the side of, I want my money, I don't care. And I'm arguing for the side of, let's just give people a chance, because at some point, all of us have fallen on hard times, or we could possibly fall on hard times if we, something happens with our job and we get fired, or if we get sick or something. So I just want to give people an opportunity. And him, not so much. He wants his money on the 1st. So it's just funny to help him manage all of his houses, and it's just so funny. It's hilarious. But yeah, that's also what I do on the side.
Yeah, you're beginning to remind me of a person I interviewed not too long ago, who, let's see, she is a mother of 4. She has her master's degree. She has a full-time job. She is a syndicated columnist. She's working on her doctorate's degree, and she's got so many other things going on. And she's written a book, and she's a personal friend of Les Brown, and she... And her name of her book, I forget, but she says the title sounds like it's a time management book, and she goes, "It's not about time management."
It's not at all.
And I said, "You need to write a book about time management if you can do all these things and still smile and keep everything happy and in line." So she's actually cool people, but anyhow, sounds like you need to write the time management book if she's not going to write it.
Maybe I need to. I mean, it's difficult to balance a bunch of things at one time. But for me, which is contrary to what a lot of people feel or believe, when I'm at my busiest, I'm at my most productive. Mm-hmm. I mean, my mind is really moving. I'm on it. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm going. And it just helps to keep me focused. Like, I have to stay focused because I have so much going on. I have to stay organized. So I love it, actually. Yeah, I love it.
There's an old saying, if you want something done, give it to a person that's already busy.
Exactly.
Because if you give it to somebody who's got the time, they just continue to think, I got the time. Anyway, we're going to go into a commercial break, and we're going to come right back here with Mona Lisa Wellington with the Slingshot Effect. She's going to tell us about what her life was like before she got into all these wonderful things that she's doing right now, and how she transitioned from point A, B, C, D, whatever, to where she is now. And actually, I think you're going to find it very interesting. I won't give anything away, so just hold on. We'll be right back. Hi, this is K. William Spencer of Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. Join us every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern on Freedom Talk Radio for enlightening, humorous, and intriguing conversations that I have with my co-host and or our guest, all to help you look at life and your choices differently. For more information, go to YTYRradio.tk, or if you prefer, YTYRradio.wordpress.com.
Are you ready to put an end to thinking about how you wish it were and take action? Take this step to find out more by going to coachingbyria.com, and you can receive your free consultation session with Coach Ria.
Welcome back. to Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. We were just having a little laugh while we were on break there for a hot second, and we started deviating from the show, but as usual with us, we just started laughing and whatnot, and we figured we better get back to this before we ended up with another one of our 2-hour conversations. Anyway, Mona Lisa. Before I start singing from Nat King Cole once again, it's that time where you start telling us about something from your past, because anybody that's wise understands that we weren't just born into a position and boop, you're there. So you weren't born into being an author, you weren't born into just being a social worker, and all these things. These are things that are learned experiences. So what in your life were you doing and when that got you to go, enough, I got to do something different? And how was that transition made?
Let me just start off at the beginning with one of my fondest memories, and I'll tell you how that relates to what I have going on in my life. And one of my fondest memories was about 4 or 5 years old. And at the time, my mom and dad were married, and we did a road trip from Houston to Mexico. And I was so frightened of just being, getting in trouble with my parents. If they told me to do something, I would do it at that point. Whatever it was, they tell me to do it because I was afraid I was going to get a spanking and be in trouble. So I remember we were in Mexico, we were staying at this hotel, and I was moving slow, as far as getting dressed, eating breakfast, let's go, we have stuff to do. And I was so afraid of, getting in trouble. So I'm just throwing clothes on so I can get out of the hotel room and, get outside with my parents. So we get outside, we're walking around, and all of a sudden, all these people are laughing around us. Like different people are there. Of course, they're speaking Spanish, but they're pointing and laughing at us. And so my mom has my hand, and she's just kind of like dragging me down the street. And she's like, why are these people pointing and laughing? Are you doing something? And I just kind of shook my head because I didn't tell her. I knew why they were laughing. I was just afraid to tell her why. Well, they were laughing because I had actually put on a pair of my mom's underwear, and they were around my ankles, and I was walking down the street with them around my ankles. And from that moment forward, she would always say, you make sure you put on your own underwear. Stay out of my trouble. But it was just so bad because everybody was just kind of pointing and laughing because I had her underwear around my ankles as I walked down the street. So it kind of all started from there, and my need to, kind of stay as the wallflower. It's better to not necessarily be seen or heard out of fear of people laughing, and, trying to do what my parents told me to do because I was afraid of being punished or, making them displeased with me. So that is one of my fondest, earliest memories. And I think that's the thing that I always think about now when I'm going out. When I decided to write this book, that image kept coming to my mind. People are going to laugh at you. It's going to be the same way it was when you were a little girl in Mexico with those underwear down. And I had to really push past that. I need to write this book because it's not about people laughing. It's not even about caring if people laugh or if they're not happy with my writing style or what I have to say. I got to get this out of here because I have a voice. And I've always had a voice. I mean, even then, that was kind of my way, I think, deep down inside of letting her know you're not really, letting my parents know you're not really controlling anything. I didn't put your underwear on, that type of thing, kind of like whatever. But, yeah, that is that is one of my funniest childhood memories. But I think that, and then a combination of other things that happened from my childhood. I do write in my book about being abused as a child. I was actually molested probably about a year or so after the whole Mexico thing. I was molested by one of the reverends at the church that we were actually attending, and he actually was also my mom's boyfriend. My mom and dad had gotten a divorce not too long after we came back from Mexico. And so my mom was always one of those women who she didn't feel comfortable enough in her own skin to just be a single woman raising her 3 girls. So she would always have like a boyfriend, which, you know, some people could say, oh, that's your uncle. No, these were boyfriends, not uncles, cousins, they're boyfriends. But from there, when he, you know, I was molested by him, and he also had several other ministers from the church to join in on molesting me. And yeah, like the pastor was involved, the deacons, the reverends, men from the usher board, everybody was joining in on this. And it was from that point forward that it began this thing with food. And let me just explain that. When I finally got to the point where I told my mom what happened, she spanked me. And it wasn't, let me not use the phrase spanking, because I know in some people when you consider spanking, that's a tap on the hand or a tap on the backside. This was a full-fledged beat down, as we call it. I got beat. It was like this was a WWE event, although I couldn't retaliate because I was so young. But anyway, she beat me. And then I went to bed, and then she woke me up at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. She wanted to know if he had offered me food, or did he give me money, or, you know, what was the whole thing. So I remember I waited. I snuck back to my room, and I waited for her to go to sleep, and I snuck in the kitchen, and I started eating. I thought in my mind, because I was so young, the more I eat, the bigger I'll get, the stronger I will become. I didn't think, oh, if I'm eating, this is unhealthy or it's going to make me overweight. I just equated the size. The bigger you are, the stronger you are. And from there it went. So as the years began to continue, my self-esteem had already taken such a bad hit with the molestation and telling my mom about it and her reacting the way that she did. I continued to eat. I began to just develop a friend. And I know this is going to sound so funny for people that don't really get this, but I literally developed a friendship with food. Food was my best friend in the world. Like, it was on every corner. You could get something for 99 cents. You go in the lunchroom and get something off your friend's tray. It's like, food was everywhere, so it was always there to give me comfort. When I would eat something that tastes good, I just felt so much love. So I continued to eat. And as I got older, the food still gave me comfort, but I started to seek it in other ways, and that's actually how I wound up developing a relationship with my ex-fiancé. We went to high school together, and him and I just connected on so many different levels. And so, of course, after that relationship didn't work, I went on to, it didn't work because we were going to college. I was a year older than him, so I went to college. During my college times, I had an opportunity to go to Spain. And when I was in Spain, different people would come up to me and they would say, "You're beautiful. You're beautiful." And to have somebody, random person, to just come tell you in Spanish, "You're beautiful," it was mind altering. Like, wow, somebody thinks I'm beautiful even though I wear these big old Urkel glasses and I'm overweight. People think I'm beautiful, and then they want to kiss you on both cheeks. Like, you know, and I'm like, oh, you're kissing me too? You think I'm beautiful and you're giving me a kiss. So I think Spain for me really changed a little bit of how I was seeing myself. And then I started doing what you call intercambios, when I would start talking to people in English so that they can work on their English. And then we'd switch. We'd do 30 minutes in English and 30 minutes they'd speak to me in Spanish. And so many people would come up to me while we were doing these exchanges and say, "You have a voice. You have something you need to say. You need to talk. You need to talk. You have something you need to say." And I said, "Well, I'm talking to you now. I'm talking about, you know, the La Plaza Mayor and all these other things. I'm talking to you now." They're like, "No, you have a story that you need to tell." And so a couple more years went by, and I decided I wanted to be a social worker. And I actually graduated from undergrad with 2 degrees because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. I had 2 fledged BAs. I have a degree in Spanish with a minor in religion. I have another degree in psychology with a minor in Black World Studies. I just was all over the place. So then I decided to get my master's in social work because I felt like I needed to help other people. And after that, I came back to Houston because my mom was going blind, reconnected with my friend from high school, which is also my ex-fiance, and from there went. After let me just say this. I'm one of those people where I journal a lot. And back then, in the 80s and 90s, we had to put pen to paper. And then the computers, people were getting computers that were no longer expensive. Then we started, going on the computer and typing up stuff. Well, then, during this time, it became even easier for me to journal because I bought a recorder, a little $10 recorder, and a bunch of tapes from the dollar store, and I started recording myself. So during this whole time, I was recording how I was feeling about my fiancé and his health and this and that and that, and that's how the book was formed. So after, I began to go through my process when the wedding was called off of just going through the grief of this guy didn't love me, or maybe he did, or maybe he didn't, and why didn't this work out? I began to have these talks with God, like, God, you let these pastors molest me. These are supposed to be men of God. You let my mom do this and this and this and this. So I went through this spiritual period, this period of just kind of questioning my spirituality and what's my purpose in life? Should I really be here? Am I a mistake? Am I worthy? And all of that. I began to go back and listen to those tapes. And before you knew it, I started realizing I needed to deal with all this childhood trauma stuff, went and got some counseling. And as I began to go through counseling and realize that I had self-worth, that I deserved to be loved, that I deserved to forgive myself, the weight started coming off. It was so weird. It was like hand in hand. The more I loved myself, the more I no longer needed to eat 2 whole pizzas. Like 2 extra large pizzas, I could knock them out in like one sitting if I was stressed out, or 2 gallons of ice cream, in a day. Oh, I could eat now. I could eat. So as I began to love myself, the weight just started coming off because I was eating less. And I'm not going to sit here and profess I was working. I was on the treadmill running 30 out. No, I was not on the treadmill. No, I was not at Weight Watchers. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just addressing my childhood trauma. And it's almost like as every pound came off, it was like a month, a week, a year of abuse that I had suffered coming off of me. And so I just got lighter on the inside with my emotions, and I got lighter on the outside. So it was just amazing to me how that went hand in hand. The weight was just a symptom of the problem, which was unresolved trauma from my childhood. And then as more time went by, I decided to go ahead and write this book. And if you want to read a book where someone is just being brutally honest, even if they look stupid, read my book. I literally put it all out there. Like, I'm going to give you an example of just how desperate I was to be loved by this man and just to be loved by anyone that gave me any attention. I remember this was probably like 3 or 4 years after we had been dating. He was actually at my apartment one night, and we were laying in the bed, sleep. It was probably like 11 o'clock at night. And we were in the bed sleep, and I have very fine-tuned hearing. I think I was a canine in another life because I can hear anything 30 miles down the street. You can sneeze, and I heard that. So I thought I heard something. So I started pushing him. Hey, I hear something. I hear something. And he was like, well, whatever you hear, go take care of it. I was like, what? You go take care of it. You're the man. He's like, no, I didn't hear it, so I'm going back to sleep. So he rolled over and went back to sleep, and I started shaking him again. Get up, I hear something at the door. So he still wasn't trying to move, so I started like pulling him for him to get out of the bed to go see. So I got up, and he eventually got up after me, and I'm like, come on, let's go check this out. So he pushes me in front of him. So now I'm in front of him. Yeah. So now I'm in front of him, and I'm heading to the front door because I'm big bad mama, right? I got a bat in my hand. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Him and I together. Whoever this is, we can take him out. That's my concept. He's right behind me. I get to the front door, and it was just the wind, like, hitting against the front door, and that's the noise that I was hearing. When I turned around, he was not behind me. He was never behind me. So, of course, I'm ticked off. So I head back to the bedroom. When I go to open the bedroom door, he even went so far as to lock the bedroom door. Yeah. So I'm literally knocking on the bedroom door at my own apartment where I pay the rent to ask him to open the door to let me in. When he opened the door, he scurried, and I did say scary, he scurried right across the floor and jumped in the bed and pulled the comforter over his head. So it was a lot of situations like that was kind of telling me this may not be the right person for you because he doesn't even care about your safety. He actually locked the bedroom door. So I tell stories like that in the book because I have a whole bunch of them, of things that he did that was pure, right in my face, red flags. This is not the person for you. But because of my desperation, I so desperately wanted to have somebody to love me and for me to love somebody in return and to be held accountable to someone and, you know, to come home every day and someone will be in the house with me and I wouldn't be alone. And because of that, I made a lot of bad decisions. And looking back on it now, I guess there are decisions that I needed to make in order to get me where I am today. But I say all of that to say it's so important if someone has, you know, some kind of whatever that emotion is that's affecting you, making certain decisions that you know your gut is telling you this is not the right relationship, or your gut is telling you this is not the right job, or it could be something as small as your gut is saying, hey, don't make this right-hand turn. You have to push the fear away and you have to follow your gut. Follow your gut. It will never lead you wrong. Never.
You're saying something that most people just seem to have a problem with, which is trusting themselves.
Right.
And I'm going to give away part of this. This is part of the reason why I said at the beginning of the show, there's a surprise coming with Mona Lisa at the end of the show. Well, I didn't forget it. Mona Lisa and 3 other people are going to be co-hosts on the show starting next week. And you're going to hear something more from her about that just in a little bit. She doesn't know that I was going to do this, so I'm putting her back on the spot. So you're back up front again, and here's the mic. Go up there and tell something about yourself, and you're Okay, so you're back on the spot again, Mona. It was just a quickie, and I just want to I want to get back into a point, and I believe it was you that was telling me that even you were homeless at one point as a child.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to get into that in a minute, because homelessness is not something it's not a bad thing. It is a bad thing to suffer through it, but on the other side of that, I was homeless. I was homeless for a while, and it was only because I ran out of money while I was traveling. So within a month, I already had an apartment. So it was not a point of I was poor, destitute, and I gave up on life. No, it was I ran out of money. So I went to a homeless shelter, and I had the experience. But anyhow, in essence of all this stuff that's going on, in reflection of it, I felt that the show needed actually a change. So I was talking with, as you've already heard from the interview with Pat Kammer, and she made a suggestion, and I thought it was a wonderful idea, and not even a week later, Mona and I, who had been trying to get in contact with each other for how long? About a month or so, almost?
About something, yeah.
Yeah, we finally hit a point where we could actually sit down and talk. And within 10 minutes of just talking with her, and I said, I found the other person I was looking for. So it's one of those things of just trusting yourself and just listening to what's going on around you. It can carry you so much further in life than sitting up here saying, this is all I'm going to do. Because if you actually look at your life, in using my own life as an experience, we can only live now, but we can plan for the future. We can't do anything about the past, so why fret over it? So plan for your future, live for the day, and watch how things change for the future. Because there's many times that you plan for the future, and your plans never come into play, but something better comes out of it. Whether you have to take step down, or it just jumps and bounces you way up into the sky, you going, whoopee, and you're enjoying it. So,
right.
You know, in other words, don't worry about the future. Worry is something people say, well, I worry, and I'm going, why are you putting the negative in front of the positive? Always look for the positive and make it work for yourself. But at any rate, enough of my preaching here. We'll get into that a little bit later. In the next 5 minutes or so, Mona, can you tell us about those two little missing parts that we were just talking about?
Okay, well, let me tell you about the homelessness, because I think that's something you touched on. I've actually been twice. I've been homeless twice, one as a child and one as an adult. As a child, when my parents got divorced, my mom she wasn't working, and she really didn't have the means to take care of us. So I remember we were sleeping out of this tan Plymouth truck, like what are those, you know, those sport, what do they call them? Those, I can't remember the name of it, but they were like a little van, kind of. Yeah. We would sleep in those, and then we would go into the nearest gas station, and we would bathe in use the sink in the bathroom to like try to wipe ourselves off and to clean ourselves. And I don't remember us being homeless for an extended period of time, but I guess we kind of were, because according to the definition of homeless now is you not having your own place. So we went from living with different men. So I don't ever remember until I was in my teen years that we had an apartment where it was just me, my mom, and my sisters. And then I think I was in my 20s, I had been living with my mom, and I don't know what happened, but she just snapped one day, and she charged me. She just came after me. She came after me with a gun. She beat me up, threw me down some stairs, and then she kicked me out of the house, and I didn't have any place to go. So, and it was so weird because the job that I had at the time, this was during the holidays. And the job that I had at the time was closed. We were on vacation, so I had never had an apartment on my own, had no rental history, really just didn't know what I was going to do. So I went and stayed at a friend's house, and I just prayed about it and asked God to just open doors for me, and he did. And the next day I called this apartment complex, and I kind of had a relationship with the manager, and she let me move in. No credit check, nothing. I had the cash. It wasn't like I didn't have the money, but I didn't have I didn't have the credit history, and they couldn't verify that I even had employment. Mm-hmm. So it's actually been twice in my life that I would have been considered homeless. But I remember that feeling as, in my 20s, like, oh my goodness, I'm homeless. I don't have a place to go. I don't have any furniture. I mean, I didn't have any furniture. I didn't have any bed. I didn't have a bed. I just didn't know what I was going to do, even though I had the money. It was so weird. But once again, as always, it worked itself out. It worked itself out. And I'm not sure what was the second part. What it was.
That's okay. I know, I put you on the spot. Actually, we only have a few minutes left. Why don't you tell us, or recount, at least from your point of view, about our conversation about how we actually connected and your view on, I hate to use the word because it usually means something very different, sometimes very, well, let's just put it this way, it's not a clear understanding for a lot of people, but your understanding in the way that you live your life on a spiritual basis.
Okay, I also mentioned this in my book. When I was going through this difficult, horrible experience, I have a lot of friends of which I quote unquote are consider themselves to be super spiritual. They go to Bible study on Wednesday night. Thursday it's women's and men's night at the church. Saturday they have prayer group. Sunday they go to Sunday school. Then they go to church. You gotta tithe. You gotta do offering. You gotta speak in your prayer language. You gotta fast. You gotta do the Lord's Supper at home. You have to read your Bible 2 to 3 hours a day. It's like this outline of what you have to do. And so I remember just hitting the wall and just being beyond depressed because I was doing all of that. everybody said, Mona, the reason why you're not married, the reason why you don't have kids, the reason why you're overweight, the reason why you're not happy is because you're not following this outline for you. If you follow this outline, you will get your happily ever after. So I followed that outline for weeks, and nothing changed. I was still eating. I was still depressed beyond measure. And as time progressed, it got worse because I couldn't understand why, if they're doing this same thing that they're telling me to do, and now I'm following their guideline, why is it not working for me? Is it because God doesn't love me? Is it because I'm not worthy? Is it because he's mad at me? Or is it because he just doesn't exist? So I went through all of that because they laid this, prescription out for me, and it didn't work. So one day I just woke up, and I remember laying on the floor because I was so sad, and I didn't have furniture either. Let me throw that in. I didn't have furniture. He was supposed to bring the furniture when he moved in. So I remember just laying on the floor face down and crying. And I just started talking to God. God, what's going on? Do you not love me? Am I not worthy? Why is this happening to me? And I remember if I just put it all out there, and I talked to God the same way I'm talking to you and the same way you're hearing my voice now. I just had a conversation with him. I didn't start out with any, doing the rosary. I didn't start out with Hail Mary. I didn't start out with Our Father. I just started out with, look, are you there? Mm-hmm. I'm really struggling here. Help me. And after I started to do that, I began to say, it's okay. I can talk to God because that is my father, and I'm going to talk to him like I would my earthly father. So I talk to him like I'm talking to anybody else. I don't, sometimes I will start the so-called prayer before, but sometimes I'm just in my car and I'm just talking to God. I'm just communing with him, what feels comfortable to me. Will I sit here and profess to you I go to church every Sunday? No. Do I tithe and offer? Not all the time. But I will say I am the happiest I have been in my life. And this book called Happily Never After, I put never after because I felt like with this man, I couldn't achieve a happy ever ending with him. But right now, I can honestly say I have achieved my happily ever after ending now because I know who God is, because I know who I am. And so I still, like I said, I just talk to God. And we have a good time. I laugh with him. I cry with him. And we just keep it moving. That's it.
Now, people, do you understand why she's going to be a co-host? I'm sitting up here smiling because I got that little resonant smile that's going on. It's like, yes, I understand. It's definitely wonderful. And she somehow conveyed that to me in 10 minutes of conversation when we met. So this is the woman that you will be hearing more from in the future. Mona, I hate to cut you off there because I love to get you going and just sit back and listen. It's a wonderful thing. But you're going to be back anyway, so don't worry about it. You can jot down whatever thoughts you have. Huh?
Yay, I'm excited.
So am I. And anyway, I want to just give you my best heartfelt thank you for being on the show and for just coming into my life. And now we're just going to share some things, and hopefully people will feel the I just say the presence of our Creator. I'll put it that way. There's some friends that I have that we prefer not to use the word God because people actually seem to run that name into the ground. So just say Creator, source of life, whatever, just to make the difference. Because, well, we know that, and I don't want to get into a long thing about that. Besides, I have to end the show right now anyway. So anyway, Mona, thank you very much for being here, and we'll look forward to talking with you again very soon. And
thank you, Will.
Yes.
Yeah.
And anything you want to say in the last maybe 30 seconds?
I just want to say really, really quick, in 30 seconds that I have, I just want to let everyone know that you can accomplish your happily never after, not because of someone else, but because you are taking a step today to accomplish that and achieve that. It is achievable.
Definitely.
That was my 30-second ending.
That was more like 15, but okay. Anyhow, yes, definitely. You can achieve anything that you want. This is the whole idea of the show anyway. So, anyway, everyone, before I start stumbling over my words, because I have something else I really want to say, but I'm just trying not to say it. But anyway, have yourself a wonderful evening, and we'll see you again soon. Take care and be well. Thank you for joining us on Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. Be sure to follow our schedule, events, blog, and more at YTYRradio.tk or YTYRradio.wordpress.com.